Surge, everyone reports to someone. In Surge, we have a hierarchy, and there's always someone that you submit to, that you report to, and you're part of a team. Sometimes that we're not able to pull that off because people arrive at the field differently, they leave differently, but our hope is that you would have leadership that you report to, that leadership be trained and competent, and that you are able to submit yourself to the leader above you. And that's always a problem, because whoever you serve is not you. They're going to see things differently than you do, and it's going to be difficult. It'll be difficult for you. It'll be difficult as you compare your work with other people that you're working with. But within Surge, and I would say within life, we're always submitting ourselves to other people. Paul says in marriage, we are to submit ourselves to each other. In the book of Philippians, we're told to submit ourselves, to think more highly of each other than we think of ourselves. This mutual submission is part of life, and in Surge, there is an actual hierarchy where you are following someone who directs and evaluates your work. That's true of Bob Osborne, our executive director. He reports to the board. I do not envy him that particular piece. It's true of me. I wanted to pull up my job description here. I actually argued a little bit with Bob over this. The Senior Director of Mission supports, encourages, and empowers the Executive Director. That's number one. And what I said to Bob was, that's a little Bob-centric, isn't it? And he said, well, Josiah, you do that pretty well. As I remember, he was saying it wasn't a personal problem with me and him. But he said the reason the statement is there is that people often forget that they're working for and with someone who is leading them, and that their responsibility is to carry that relationship, to manage up, to make their leader successful, to be a good follower as well as a good leader, that those two things go together. And so I wanted to spell it out right here at the top. I thought it was a good idea. And I would remind you, as you go to the field, as you engage a team, you are stepping into something in many cases, in every case, that's already moving. Even if you're starting a new team, you're reporting to a regional supervisor or to an area director, and there are things already in motion and moving. You may feel the new things that you're learning as a team member or as a team leader more keenly, but you are joining something that's already in place and moving. I remember talking to a couple in my office. They were actually changing teams, moving from one to another. And I said to them, you know, as you go in, your responsibility is to support the strategy and the work of the team leader. And I love what the woman said. She said, oh, that's an interesting idea. And it was clear that had not been her conception of what team was at all. As I listened to her, I believe her conception was, I have a ministry that the team is there to support. And that's partially true. But the team is also something that you are joining, and where your work is blended with others and led by a team leader who evaluates your work and to whom you submit. And that is frequently a difficult passage for people to navigate if they haven't done it before. Sometimes grace or a wrong understanding of grace can subvert appropriate leadership and appropriate following, appropriate submission. In Christ, we are all children of God. In Christ, there is no male or female, slave or free, Jew or Gentile, but we are all children of God equally because of what Christ has done. He has made us one new person. And so that is a very flat view of who we are in terms of our worth to God. But as that plays out in our lives, we find that we have different gifts. Reading in Corinthians 12, 1 Corinthians 12, we have different functions, we have different ministries, and in every case, there are leaders and followers involved. I'm both a follower and a leader, and that may be true in your life as well. As a mother, you may be a follower on a team, but also a leader of children. So they're all of us, almost all of us will have both leadership and following responsibilities. And in both cases, that requires understanding and submitting yourself to people who are in authority. Part of what allows us to do that is a healthy understanding of who we are in Christ. The gospel frees me to submit well. My worth does not come from my position. My worth comes from my relationship with Christ. And so when I'm working with Bob, when I'm working with the board, and I need to say, okay, I'll just do it. I don't like it, but I'll do it. I'm able to do that without that feeling like it is a personal attack on me, because my worth is not tied up in just the work I do, just my role in an organization. So I am free to take what role is needed by the calling and the ministry I accept. That doesn't come without some talk. Let me pull back kind of the curtain on the executive leadership team here. Al was coming in new. We had met with him a few times, but he was really very new to working with Bob and with me. And Bob asked me to do something. He said, I want you to take on a new large project. Here's what I want the project to look like. And I want you to be in charge of this and lead this new effort. And I said, no, that's a dumb idea. And I think Al kind of looked at me askance. I said, Bob, I'm not the right person to do that. At the time, I have 2 staff members, one part-time working at distance in business for transformation, and one assistant working with me in the office. Al has lots of people. What you're asking him to do is actually with people that would report to him and not with me. I already have a full-time job. I don't need to be doing this. And I think Al was kind of sitting back and taking notes. Where is this going to go? And Bob, God bless him, he was patient. No, you need to do this. You need to, and I think he and I wrestled through that probably for an hour. And when I finally realized Bob is set on this, it is his job to make these decisions. I report to and am to serve and to help Bob. I finally said, okay, I'll do it. And I can honestly say I haven't looked back, and we've made good progress in that. And as I went along, I actually saw the wisdom of why Bob put that on me, because there were some pieces that I could do that would have been very difficult for someone else to pull off. So he actually made a pretty good call. There have been others that were not so successful. But I'm not going to use those examples because I want you to understand that anywhere in the mission, there is a relationship of submission, of following, of working together, and that's part of life in Surge. We're committed to it. We think it's a Bible paradigm. We believe that's what you see in Paul's team. That's what you see in Jesus' team. That's what you see in our teams as well. So being secure in who I am, being willing to belong to a team, like I belong to the ELT, and so there's some give and take, and some identification with that and ownership of that belonging. Being willing to be patient. I was said Bob isn't perfect. I think Bob would agree with that. I'm not going to give examples, but I know I'm not perfect as a leader. Boy, when I came into Surge, I had a vision for a helpful piece of software that would really support the work of renewal and doing sonship at distance really well. I felt like I had a contractor that could produce this software. I felt like it would be a really great thing. I hooked the contractor up with the renewal department, and I enmeshed them with a project that was just like walking through a bog. They paid dearly for my good idea. I had to go back to them and say, guys, thanks for your patience. Thanks for making this work pretty well despite the obstacles. And, I'm not sure that was the best idea. I don't think I helped you at all. That's part of what happens with leaders. You make the best judgment you can, and you could be wrong. Do you know what I appreciate? Those guys didn't throw me out of the boat. They pitched in, tried to make it work. Now, by God's mercy, we have a whole different system that's going to work a whole lot better. But they persevered. I appreciate that. It strengthened our relationship. And I would say that's true of you going to a team. You need to be for your leader, warts and all. Tim O'Neill was a leader in the early days of the apprenticeship, and I think he said something really wise. He said every time new people come in, they're suspicious. They're suspicious of me. They already have some good ideas. They're pretty hard-headed and driven, or they wouldn't be a cross-cultural worker. It's a hard job. You have to raise money, and you have to intend to do it, push hard, and have some vision yourself. And then when you get to the field, you find you're following somebody, something is already moving, and you have to step into that and learn the culture, learn the team culture. It's hard because it's changing all the time. Part of being a good follower is watching and learning, being willing to support things, to be patient when you don't yet understand, and to move along well in that, to be committed to making a leader and a team successful in plans that you didn't draw up yourself. That's part of being a good team member. Now, do you have good ideas? I hope so. Does your leader listen to them? I really want him to. We want to train him to be a good listener as well, so that your input and participation helps craft what that team looks like. But leader and follower, that mutual submission, him having a value or her having a value for you, your ideas, giving you a place where you can speak and where you can make a contribution, your value for them, submitting to their leadership, that mutual submission, and then the hierarchical submission are part of what Surge is about. And so as you go into the field, be aware of these things, take on yourself some humility, some patience, some intention to be a good team member and a good follower. And I believe God will bless that.